Welcome to this astrology report. I'm Gina. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if this is your first time. I wanted to come on this morning to talk about a few of the things that are happening with the astrology right now, but primarily I wanted to discuss the Venus Neptune conjunction in Pisces, which is exact on the 3rd. This isn't something that I talked about in my horoscopes for the month. So if you go to my channel and you watch your horoscopes, I did them this time actually for March and April together because of the eclipse season that we're in the middle of. But I didn't discuss Venus conjunct Neptune. And I think that it's an aspect, we're talking about Venus conjunct Neptune, it's right here. Maybe I should give it a little circle. Oh, I don't want to take the time. It's an aspect that I hear discussed, Venus-Neptune aspects in general, that I feel can sometimes be a bit misunderstood. So I really wanted to, or not misunderstood, but there's just an aspect to it that I want to highlight that I don't hear as often as I'd like. And so I wanted to talk a bit about that today, and we'll also talk about some of the other astrology that's going on. We are right in the middle of the eclipses. We have a Mercury retrograde that's about to begin. So there's an awful lot to discuss, that's for sure. I do wonder if it is helpful if I use some of my little tools here to help us see the report. As I discuss different things, maybe I can just do a quick circle of the aspects that we're discussing. Like right now, we're going to be discussing the Venus-Neptune conjunction in Pisces. Let me kind of highlight that a little bit. Yeah, that is helpful, isn't it? I hope so. You can see the two planets there. This is a chart from early this morning, from about 6:30 in the morning. I always try to create a chart with Aries in the first house when we do these all sign reports, because then I think it's a little bit easier to kind of wrap your head around. Okay, so let's talk about this aspect, and hopefully this makes sense, whatever level of astrology practice you have. So Venus moves faster than Neptune. So Venus is moving around the chart and working to catch up to Neptune here in Pisces. And that aspect will be exact on the 3rd, on April 3rd. But we are within orb now, meaning that Venus is only 3 degrees away from Neptune. So we're already feeling this. As aspects build, you can kind of think of it, I've heard it described as a tea kettle that is getting ready to boil, right? And the moment that the water actually switches over from super, super hot to boiling is the moment that the aspect is exact, that the conjunction is exact. And then as the planet pulls away, it's still hot. The tea kettle is real hot, but it's moving in the other direction. The temperature's going down, not up. But whenever we're within 3, 4, even 5 degrees, when some of these larger planets are concerned, outer planets, we can feel it. So we're definitely within orb of this aspect now. Now, I do think that once Venus moves into Aries, which it does pretty quickly after this conjunction, Venus moves into Aries on the 6th of April. So once that happens, oh no, I'm sorry. Actually, I think that Pluto moves in even earlier. What's exact on the 6th is that Venus will make a sextile to Pluto. So on the 4th, Venus moves into Aries. So really, this whole aspect is exact now till like the 4th, because I think once Venus moves into Aries, we'll have a different vibe. And then Aries is going to quickly sextile Pluto, or Venus is going to quickly sextile Pluto, which is really nice, actually. Okay, but this Venus-Neptune aspect is very powerful. And whenever you hear Venus-Neptune discussed in astrology, you always hear about love, about divine love, about real partnership, real love, and real connections. Now, this isn't just romantic love. Of course, it is often, but also it can be an amazing friendship where you just really have this incredibly spiritual connection. Or it can be a connection with a like a spiritual mentor or a spiritual friend. Um, it's connection between two people that is otherworldly and that is sort of divine in some sense, some way in which you complement each other. It's not really about bringing out the best, but it is. It is. It's about um, seeing yourself in someone else, the way that they see you, helping you to see yourself differently. And the way that you see them, you see that that's shifting and changing and growing them. That amazing partnership where you know yourself better somehow from knowing them, right? That energy is just pinging back and forth. And it's one of those connections that helps you remember why connecting with other people is so wonderful and so important and so central. And it makes you feel like other connections that don't have this quality aren't worth a lot of time and effort. You know, these connections are so powerful, um, and there's such magnetism between them. Okay, so that all sounds really good. The only negative thing I ever hear about it is that it can be dissociative, right? Because you're so wrapped up in the love and the energy and in the connection that you kind of dissociate a little bit and like lose yourself. And I agree with that. That can happen for sure. But there's something else about it too. And that's really why I wanted to come on today. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee as well. I like doing these live streams a little bit more casually and they don't get as many views or get watched as much, but I just want to share the astrology for those who want to hear it. And it's nice to have some videos that I do a little bit more casually too. I feel like it's helping me connect with the astrology and with you all in a different way. Okay, so the other thing about Venus Neptune that I want to mention is that relationships that are our highest relationships sometimes can also be the most challenging, right? A relationship that really brings out who you are, where you really see yourself reflected in somebody else. All of those things that I just said. Yes, they're wonderful in a lot of ways, but they're also challenging. It's challenging to take a real look in the mirror. It's challenging to truly, authentically connect with somebody else. And sometimes these kinds of connections can feel scary. You can wonder about them because they trigger us. You know, relationships that are here to heal us. And we also have so much going on right now with Chiron over here. Chiron's been very active and will be very active through April. That's all about healing. I just think with all of that going on too, there is a possibility that as much as this Venus Neptune is stirring up a bunch of love and harmony and connection and real love in relationship, that also triggers us. It challenges us to grow. It challenges us to really know ourselves. You know, there are a lot of difficulties in that. And so I think it's good just to know that. But I think that those kinds of challenges are the kinds of challenges that we're supposed to grow through. You know, please, let's grow through having a connection with another human being that is so real and so powerful that we have to take a step back and catch our breath, you know, and that it challenges us to sort of live and learn and grow. I do see a question here in the comments. Thank you so much. And at the end of this video, which will probably only be another 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something like that, I will answer all questions. I'm so happy to do that. And I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for being here. Excuse me. So I think we're meant to grow through these kinds of relationships, these kinds of challenges. And so I think it is an aspect that should be embraced. It's a wonderful connection, especially because Venus is in Pisces, right? Venus is exalted in Pisces. This is Venus's favorite place to be, favorite sign. And so it is even a little extra like the highest love possible. You know, it's this like sort of perfected, easy, natural, flowy connection. And you might really be feeling that in a lot of your relationships right now. You may even be feeling it internally. Okay. But it's weird how there is like a level at which it's also uncomfortable. And I mean, that's kind of the moment we're in right now anyway, with everything else that's going on in the chart. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about this Venus-Neptune conjunction before moving on to talking about the eclipses and the Mercury retrograde a little bit. Yeah, I think that's about it. It really is very lovely, especially with it being in Pisces. But we've had a lot going on in Pisces. You know, maybe that's the other thing to say here before we completely move on to another part of the reading. Here, let me take away this square. Thank you for your patience. And then let's do this. Let's zoom in on the Pisces part of the chart. Okay, so we do have the Venus-Neptune conjunction happening right now, and that's lovely. Saturn's also in this sign and house, and Mars is also in this sign and house. And Mars is working to catch up to Saturn right now, and that can be a little bit challenging. So as much as we have this harmony and this grace and this ease, and you may be feeling this in one particular life area, you know, wherever you have Pisces in your chart, or you could just be feeling it sort of generally. I think it all kind of goes together. But Saturn has been asking us to do a lot of hard work. Mars is coming in now and really motivating us. If you're self-motivated, it will feel like self-motivation coming to the surface. And if not, then the motivation may come from an external source. And so this is a busy sign and house. There's a lot happening right now. And I think that's making us feel very sensitive. Pisces is a sensitive sign, an emotional sign. So I feel like that could be sort of pulling on the more difficult aspects of the Venus-Neptune conjunction too. Thank you so much for the hearts and for your comments, and I just appreciate you all so much. I'll try to stay sort of focused on my words here and get to the questions at the end. Learning more and more to work with these live streams and be able to do that, because I do get so pleasantly distracted by comments and little tiny hearts in the corner. And likes and more people coming in, and it's so nice to see. It really is. And I love sharing astrology in this way. It's so much fun. It's so nice to be able to wake up today and be like, I have something I need to say about this Venus-Neptune conjunction. I'm going to do a live stream and just be able to pop on, and whoever's here is here, and the video will be up later if anybody wants to see it. Definitely check out horoscopes for the month if you are enjoying this report, because those are a different pace. I put a lot of time and editing into them, and they're specific for your sign. You should always look at my horoscopes and a lot of horoscopes for your rising sign, if you know your rising sign, because we relegate the chart. I'm going to lose this magnifying glass here. We relegate the chart to whatever sign is in the first house. So basically, long story short, if you know your rising sign, look at your horoscope for your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, look at your regular sun sign report. That's just fine. You will get a lot out of that, particularly if you don't know your rising sign yet. Once you tap into sort of that level of astrology practice, the rising sign becomes a little bit more relevant. So, yes, okay. Let's move on and talk about just a couple other quick things today, because it is not okay to talk about the Venus-Neptune conjunction in isolation. We can't talk about anything in astrology in isolation. We're always trying to look at the whole chart, right? And if you check out on my channel, there's a video about astrology is like a lasagna, right? And what I mean by that is if you'd never had lasagna before, and I was going to describe what lasagna tastes like to you, and I described the pasta and the sauce and the cheese, that really wouldn't give you a sense of what the whole thing is like when it comes together, right? In order to have the whole thing come together, you kind of need the sauce and the cheese and the pasta all at once. um, and so that's what I mean by that. I like it when, let's make the chart bigger. Yeah, that's better, easier to see. And so let's do that a little bit right now. First of all, we have to talk about how we're in between eclipses. We had a lunar eclipse in Libra on the 25th, and on the 8th, we are going to have a total solar eclipse in Aries. Again, check your horoscope on my channel for more about those. But when we're in between the eclipses, the energy is very potent. There actually aren't a lot of aspects this week during this period. There is the Venus Neptune conjunction, a few other things happening, but the skies are a little quiet. But you can't really say that because we're in between eclipses. So as we start to pull away from the lunar eclipse and move towards the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipses can be more emotional, more internal, whereas solar eclipses are more about external events and things actually happening in your life and the world. So we might see more things actually coming up. You may have had a lot of feelings in the last week or two and been feeling sort of very emotional, feel like you're working on a lot of things internally. But now as we start to move closer to that solar eclipse, we start to see things actually happen that kind of move your story forward and the collective story forward. The news tends to get pretty busy around a solar eclipse, the week before, 2 weeks after. And then often the path of the eclipse is kind of busy for the next 6 months or so. But in your own life, you might start to notice that you can sleep a little bit better. I think around a lunar eclipse, it's very hard to sleep well. I feel like I got my first decent night's sleep last night for the first time in a few days. That was nice. And also, I always feel that the solar eclipses are a little bit more likely to affect men, and and the lunar are a little bit more likely to affect women. Listen, we all have masculine and feminine sides within us. We are all of these things. So it's just a way that I've noticed it tend to pan out. Same as the emotional and the activity. There's something about the internal and the external and just these different dualities and the way that they can sometimes show up in astrology. That's very interesting. And that's not to say anything about gender. It's even within all of us, we all have masculine and feminine sides. So you may even notice that your, different sides of yourself are affected by different things in astrology. So anyway, as we move towards that solar eclipse, I really do think that eclipse season is a great time to sort of slow down and pay attention and just kind of relax a little bit. Watch, listen, pay attention, but it's not always a great time to start something new. Like if you have an impulse like, oh, I really want to do this thing. I've never thought of it before, but all of a sudden it's something I want to do. If you can wait until mid-April to see how you feel about that, that might be the best idea. There's even more of a slowdown energy right now because we're moving into this Mercury retrograde. Okay, so Mercury, let's give it a little circle. I'll be quick about it. Mercury is in Aries and has been for a while. And Mercury is slowing down now, moving very slowly as it gets ready to retrograde. And Mercury will station retrograde tomorrow, move all the way back through, there's Mercury. Move all the way back through Aries, then station direct towards the end of the month. I think it's like the 24th. What is the date? I can get that date. Mercury stations direct April 25th. Yes. And then we'll come back through Aries. So Mercury retrograde is also a time of slowing down, of tying up loose ends, finishing projects that you have already started, and moving things forward that are undone, tying up loose ends, getting things together, that finishing things. You've started things. Mercury retrograde is a great time to finish things. And so I think that's another nod toward slowing down during this in-between eclipse period. Cleaning up the house, organizing some things at work, making those phone calls you've been putting off. Because as we move further into the year, there'll be more opportunities for advancement. But it's just always interesting to kind of know what the energy is lending itself towards, and then we can harmonize with that a little bit. It's not about really changing anything that you were supposed to do anyway. I don't believe in that with astrology, but sometimes it's nice to know, like, oh, the vibe right now is really supportive of internal work, of slowing down, of watching and looking and listening. And then after the eclipse, you can kind of see where you are. By the time we get through this Mercury retrograde, the solar eclipse period, and we get to that next full moon 2 weeks later, which is an interesting one, actually. I'll be back on for that. Let me just mention really quickly that next full moon is in Scorpio on April 23rd. And on April 20th, we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. By the time we're on the other side of all of this, by the time we're in early May, things are going to be a little different. Your life will probably be a little different. The world will probably be a little different. Things change during eclipse season. It's not that it's super busy, it's that it's super ripe with change and shifting. And that happens internally and externally, usually, especially if the eclipse is happening where you are. You may notice that even a little extra. Eclipses are one of the oldest things that's been studied in astrology. They were tracking them thousands of years ago. So we have a lot of data on correlations between eclipses and what's happening on the ground to look at. Okay, before I move on to talking about any questions, I take questions here. I just want to remind again to check horoscopes on my channel for your sun or rising sign. Also, you can book a reading with me. I have a website. It's astrologywithgina.com, and you can book a reading with me on there. Would love to do that. And I do consultations, by Zoom and Skype, but also I have a recorded reading option, which is a little bit more affordable. And it's great. People really enjoy it because it's very flexible. I look at your chart and I record the reading as an audio file, and then I just send you the audio file. And so people really enjoy that because you can listen to it again and again. You don't have to take time out of your schedule to meet with me. And it is a more affordable option as well. So consider that. Again, I'm astrologywithgina.com. But I love being on YouTube, and I love being able to have this place where I can do astrology for free. So just thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video or if you're enjoying my videos in general. And just thank you so much for being here. So let me just give a quick scroll through the questions here and see if there's anything I can answer for anybody. Leo ascendant, suffering so much in relationships right now. Well, I think it's very interesting. As a Leo ascendant, you have Pisces having just moved into, Pluto having just moved into your 7th house. So Pluto is directly opposed Leo, and I can see that would bring on, that's quite a shift for Pluto to suddenly move into that house. You're having a transition year right now with a Leo ascendant. Pluto is back and forth across your 7th, 6th house axis. But ultimately, this is a good thing. If there are shifts and changes happening for you, Leo ascendant, with that Pluto in the seventh house, Pluto is really interesting. Pluto makes us look at things. Here's what I'd like to say about a Pluto transit, okay? And I hope you're still here, the person who asked this question. A Pluto transit makes us look at things that we don't want to look at, things that we buried, that are ugly, that we want to be done with, that we want to put away. And what Pluto does is it comes up and it takes that thing that you buried and it plops it right in the living room and it makes you deal with it. Who wants that? That certainly feels like difficulty in relationships, which is the way suffering, which is how you described it. But ultimately, looking at that matter, looking at that thing that we just wanted to bury and not even think about, allows us to sort of pack it up and put it away a little bit more neatly the next time, right? We deal with it, we work on it, we put it in a nice shiny box, and then we put it back on a shelf maybe instead of burying it. Any progress that we can make with the really difficult stuff in life has such a profound ripple effect. We can't even really be aware of it, right? But if you have something really deep and difficult and it's able to heal just a little bit, it goes such a long way. And that's what Pluto transits do. They don't always feel pleasant. They don't always feel unpleasant, though, either. They just feel deep. And so I'm not surprised that you're feeling all those feelings. I would consider 2024 a transition year and just allow yourself to go through that process of having those feelings. And you're working on something old, something that's been there for a long time. And hopefully you're, through doing that, doing some healing and able to move it to a better, different place. Okay, and then someone saying that they're a Pisces. That's wonderful. Oh, Princess, I see this question from you. I feel for you. With your Libra ascendant, or with your Libra signature, this eclipse season is hitting you very directly in your relationship sector. And then everything I just said about Leo would make sense in your connection. So, astrology, one thing I want to say too, is astrology is just one tool that we have in life. It's not the answer. It's not going to tell us what we should do or what we shouldn't do. It's crazy because, it works so well. It's so true that it can be easy to get very excited about astrology and really lean into it. But I think we always want to temper the way that we use astrology, right? So I can't tell you much about your marriage with, your spouse and what the two of you should do, are doing, have done, anything like that. We can look for different resonances in the astrology. And through that work, you can do some introspecting that can help you to move things forward, if that makes sense. It's like getting a tarot card reading or something. It's not really about the information that you get from the reading. It's about the process of sitting down and engaging in that kind of work about yourself. It's the same thing with astrology. When we're feeling a little lost, going within is so helpful, but that's not easy to do, right? It can be overwhelming emotionally. Sometimes we need tools. We need something to hold on to as we go down that well. We need some rungs of a ladder or something to hold on to. And I feel like that's what astrology does. It gives us a little foothold by which to explore ourselves and other people. And through that work, you may gain some insights and answers in terms of what's right for you in your marriage. It's interesting. We are talking so much about relationships right now. And someone who's a Libra rising, you really have it going on because the eclipses are happening in your first seventh house axis, which is all about relationships. Libra and Aries are about relationships anyway, wherever they are. And then the Venus Neptune thing is very relationship-y. So, and just all the activity in Aries throughout April will be happening in your seventh house. So all of that is going on for sure. Yeah, I feel like there was something else I was going to say. I may have lost my train of thought. Okay, thank you very much, Princess, for your comment. And I'm just sending lots of love and wishing nothing but the best for you in your relationship. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. That, I don't know. I think our society has such we're so programmed that relationships are supposed to look a certain kind of way. Whether it's like, it's not a successful relationship if you're not like married and sharing a home, or, you know, it's not successful if it doesn't last forever, or you have to get married by a certain age, or there's all these different, it has to be like, I don't know. There's all these different ways that we're conditioned. And some of those conditions, that conditioning is pretty toxic. And I just think when it comes to relationships, we're at a point where we should all do what works for us. We all really need to be individuals. Don't worry about what anybody thinks. Don't worry about any of that noise, you know, what it was supposed to be, what you thought it was going to be, or anything like that. I think that we are coming into a time where we're coming into our uniqueness with relationships, and we're able to form ties that are really right for us. And a lot of relationships aren't looking so much the way relationships traditionally have, and in some ways that's a really good thing, you know. So relationships aren't always easy also, is something I want to say. Like, I think we think of love as such a positive. You know, I'm actually so glad I'm getting to this because it really relates so well to the Venus Neptune thing that we've been talking about, that is the point of this whole video. I think we can think of love as being a happy, positive thing, but love is also grief. Love is suffering. Like, that is the flip side of that coin, right? You, when you're grieving someone, when you're missing someone, when you're sad for someone, aren't you feeling the love for them so much in those moments? Just as much as you feel the happiness when you're together, you know? And again, it's all about teaching us about ourselves. Everything's about teaching us about ourselves, and about, you know, being able to give and receive love, being more difficult than it sounds sometimes. Anyway, relationships and love is not always a pleasant, positive experience. The realer it is sometimes, the more it challenges us. That's really the point of what I wanted to say today with this Venus-Neptune conjunction. So this conversation has been right on time. Thank you so much for your comment, Princess. Okay. Oh, thank you. I'm seeing your comments. Very sweet. And thank you, Bo, as well, for your nice comments. Yes, I see the Virgo rising, and he's a Gemini rising. I think we're just gonna, leave the answer to your questions there, though, Princess, because it did feel kind of complete to me too. So thank you, everyone, so much for being here. Have a wonderful day. Be sure to check your horoscope on my site, and also if you'd like to book a reading, astrologywithgina.com, and subscribe and like if you enjoyed this video today. And thank you for being here.